The sky over Grithin was always dark. Ash fell like snow. The air smelled of smoke and oil. In the center of the slave market, a crowd gathered. Humans, aliens, traders, guards. They weren't there to help. They were there to buy. Chained to a rusty pole stood an alien woman. Her name was Arieth. Her long white hair was dirty. Her golden skin was bruised and cut. She wore only a torn cloth over her body. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. Her yellow eyes stared forward, cold, tired, broken. "Next," the auctioneer shouted. He pulled Arieth forward and raised, her arm like a trophy. "Half-blood royal," the man yelled. "From the old Zurek line, once a noble, now yours for 1 credit." The crowd laughed. 1 credit? A merchant scoffed. "That's what I paid for a sandwich." "She's not even worth that," another said. A guard kicked Arieth in the back. She fell to her knees. "She's weak. Won't last a week in the mines," someone muttered. But one man in the back didn't laugh. He didn't speak. His name was Jace Harrow, a human mechanic. He came to fix a mining drone, not watch an auction. But his eyes couldn't leave the woman. Jace was tall, dressed in dusty overalls. His hands were rough, stained with grease. He was poor, no friends, no family, but something in him stirred as he looked at her. Something deep, something painful. The auctioneer looked around. "No buyers? Come on, even trash can dig for rocks." A short miner stepped forward. "I'll take her, 1 credit." The man threw a dirty coin at the auctioneer, then grabbed Arieth by the hair. She didn't fight. She didn't even blink. Chains rattled as she was dragged toward a transport cart, already full of tired slaves. The cart doors shut with a loud bang. Jace clenched his fists. He didn't even know her, but he felt like he had seen something terrible, something wrong. Later that night, the mines screamed with sound. Metal crashing, machines digging, people crying. Jace was inside the underground pit, fixing a broken drill. Sparks flew from his tools as he worked. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw her again. Arieth. She was chained to a wall near a broken conveyor belt. Her hands were bleeding. Her back was bent. She was trying to move rocks with a shovel that had no handle. She stumbled, fell. A guard shouted, "Get up!" Lazy scum. No one helped her. No one cared, except Jace. He slowly walked toward her during a break. She looked up. For a second their eyes met, and in that 1 second, Jace saw fear, pain, and something else. Hope. He pulled a small water bottle from his belt and tossed it near her feet when no one was looking. Arieth froze. She stared at the bottle like it was gold. Then, slowly, she picked it up and drank. For the first time, Jace saw her lips move. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, said nothing, and walked away. But he knew something had changed. That night, as he lay on his cot in the repair shack, Jace couldn't sleep. She was sold like trash, he thought. But she's not trash. He remembered her eyes, and he remembered how no one cared. Not the guards, not the traders, not the aliens. Only him, just one human. One poor, lonely mechanic. And in the silence of the cold mine station, Jace made a choice. He would break the chains. He didn't know how. He didn't have a plan. But something deep inside him said, she must not die here. Not like this. Not in the dark. Not forgotten. And so, the first spark of rebellion was lit. Not with fire. Not with guns. But with a single look. And a promise made in silence. The next morning, the mine's alarm buzzed before sunrise. Loud, cold, unforgiving. Jace Harrow rubbed his tired eyes. He had barely slept. Not because of the noise, but because of her. The image of the alien woman. Arieth, chained and bleeding, haunted his thoughts like a ghost. He didn't even know her name. But her silence, her eyes, they had burned into his memory like fire. He pushed himself out of bed, grabbed his tool belt, and walked into the tunnels of Grithin Mine. Smoke filled the air. The pit smelled of burnt oil and rotten food. Slaves moved like shadows. No laughter, no light in their eyes. Machines roared, Drills shook the stone walls and guards barked orders. Jace didn't belong here. He was just a mechanic, just a repairman. He fixed broken things. He didn't fight wars, he didn't break rules, he just tried to survive. But that day, something inside him was broken too. His first job was to repair a faulty loader near Sector 9 where the worst slaves were sent. Dangerous air, constant cave-ins, and no security cameras. Most workers died there within weeks. He walked into the sector. His boots crunched over bones, yes, bones. Some workers had died. Their bodies were never taken out, and that's when he saw her again. Ariath. This time she was not just chained, she was being punished. A guard stood over her holding an electric rod. Her arm was twisted behind her back. She had fallen, unable to lift a heavy beam. Her face was bleeding from a strike across her cheek. "Get up, beast," the guard shouted, lifting the rod again. Jace didn't think. He acted. "Hey," he barked, stepping forward. "Back off. You'll kill her." The guard turned. "You got a problem, mechanic?" "She's injured. If she dies, she's useless. To the mine. You want me to fix broken bots, not drag dead bodies." The guard growled but paused. "Fine. She gets 10 minutes. He walked away. Jace knelt beside her. He looked into her face. There were no tears. Just quiet. "I'm Jace," he said slowly, unsure if she understood him. The alien woman didn't speak, but her lips moved. One word. Why? It hit Jace like a punch in the chest. No one had ever helped her before. No one ever would. And she couldn't understand why a human would care. He looked at her wrists. The metal cuffs had dug into her skin. Blood had dried in patches. Her body trembled from pain. "You're not trash," Jace whispered. That was all he could say. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small roll of medical foam, usually used on broken drones. Gently, he sprayed it over her wrists. The foam hissed as it sealed the wounds and stopped the bleeding. Ariath's eyes widened, just a little. Not in fear, in shock. Then, for the first time, she gave the smallest nod. That night, Jace returned to his quarters. He didn't report to his superiors, he didn't log the repairs. Instead, he opened an old locker and pulled out a dusty datapad from Earth. On it was a video, a child crying, being comforted by a woman with long white hair. His wife, his daughter, both gone now. Both lost in a war between humans and aliens years ago. A war he didn't start. A war that took everything from him. And now, in the face of a suffering alien woman, he saw something familiar. Grief. Loneliness. Pain. Maybe. Helping her wouldn't bring his family back, but maybe, just maybe, it would mean something. The next morning, Jace smuggled a thin blanket in his toolkit. When no one was looking, he left it behind the machine Ariath worked on. She found it later. She looked up, and though she said nothing, she gently pressed her hand to her chest, then to her forehead. A quiet sign. A silent thank you. And Jace knew at that moment something had begun. Not love. Not yet. But trust. The smallest seed of it. In a place of chains and shadows, a mechanic and a slave had made a secret connection, and that secret would soon set fire to the entire mine. The mine never slept, but it groaned at night. When the lights dimmed and the machines cooled, the tunnels whispered, metal clanked, air, vents moaned. Sometimes slaves said the mine cried, because of all the suffering buried in its walls. Ariath had stopped counting days. She only knew pain. But now something strange was happening. Each day she found a small gift near her station. A soft cloth, a half-energy bar, a piece of fruit. Quiet things left without a word. At first she thought it was a trap. Then she realized it was him, the human, Jace, the mechanic who said nothing but saw everything. One day, a young alien boy, no older than 10, crawled to her side. "You're the one he protects," the boy whispered. Ariath blinked. "Who?" The human. The fixer. He looks at you like my brother used to look at me before they took him. The boy didn't wait for a reply. He vanished back into the shadows. Arieth's heart beat faster. No one had spoken to her with kindness in so long she had forgotten what it felt like. Jace, meanwhile, worked deeper into the mind systems. He had found something dangerous. Arieth was marked. On the slaver's records, she had a black tag, meaning expendable, no healing, no transfer. That meant the owners didn't care if she lived, or if she died. She was a forgotten body in the system, and that made Jace's chest burn with something hot and ugly, rage. That night, during a power reset, Jace sneaked into Control Sector B. He wore a tech suit and carried a code chip he had been building piece by piece for weeks. He bypassed the scanners. He entered the slave database. He searched for her. Subject, Arieth Zurek. Status, deemed royal line, traitor blood, sold for. Disposal, his hands shook. Traitor blood? That meant someone in her own family had sold her out. The system had notes. Hidden ones. Was princess of the Zurek moon house. Refused alliance marriage. Publicly attacked warlord during negotiation. Sentenced by own counsel. Jace cursed, under his breath. She had been sacrificed for politics, thrown away for saying no. He copied the file and closed the system before the patrols returned. The next morning, Jace went to Arieth again. This time he sat down beside her during machine, cooling. She looked at him with tired eyes, still weak, still silent. But now, not empty. He pulled a scrap of metal from his pocket. It was shaped like a flower, something he had carved while working alone at night. I made this, he said softly. It's not much, but I wanted you to have something that was just yours. He placed it in her palm and didn't wait for thanks. He started to walk away, but her voice, quiet like a falling feather, stopped him. My name is Arieth, she said. Jace turned. It was the first time he had heard her voice truly. Soft, cracked, royal, but broken, and I will never forget that you saw me when I was invisible. That night the guards beat an older alien man for stealing a piece of bread. No one stopped them, except Arieth. She stepped forward. Her chains rattled. She shouted something in her old royal language, sharp, commanding. The guards froze for a moment, shocked. Then they beat her too. Jace watched from behind a broken machine. He didn't interfere, not yet. But he knew what she was doing. She was no longer just surviving. She was standing, even in chains, even in pain. And now, the whispers in the mine weren't about ghosts. They were about her. She spoke to the guard. She tried to stop a beating. She used to be someone important. That human mechanic watches her like he'd burn the mine down for her. In the shadows of the tunnels, something new was forming. Not love, not yet, but something more dangerous. Loyalty, and it was growing, whisper by whisper, chain by chain, step by step. The storm was building, but underground, no one saw the clouds. Jace Harrow stood in the equipment room staring at the wall. His tools hung in neat rows, wires tangled on the floor. But his mind wasn't on repairs. It was on her, Arieth. On her bruised wrists, on the dried blood near her collarbone, on the way she still stood tall, even while chained. He knew now. If he didn't act soon, she'd die. Not in one loud moment, but slowly, forgotten, like dust buried beneath steel. The mine would bury her like it buried everything, unless he broke the rules. All of them. Jace began collecting parts from broken bots, old heat coils, metal scrap, mini fusion cells that still held a spark. He worked at night in silence. Wires became circuits, circuit boards became devices, and behind a fake wall in his quarters he built a pulse bomb, enough to knock out the mine's power for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That's all he would get. 2 minutes of blackout. 2 minutes to find her. 2 minutes. To run. But he needed more. He needed to know where the guards rotated, where the cameras were blind, and most of all, how to remove her chains. So he made a deal with someone he never thought he'd speak to. Narlox, a half-cyborg thief from the deep waste pits. "Why help you?" Narlox hissed. His left eye glowed red. "She's just mind-slave trash." "She's not," Jace said calmly. "She's royalty, and she doesn't deserve this." Narlox laughed. "None of us do." Jace held up a rare plasma core from Earth. "I'll trade. This for a map of the mine's tunnels." Narlox stared, then nodded. "Deal." The next day, Jace slipped a tracker into Arieth's cuffs while checking the loader nearby. She didn't flinch. She had learned to trust his silence. "Tomorrow," he whispered under his breath. "Be ready." She didn't speak, but her hand twitched. A silent answer. Yes. The plan was madness. There were guards with rifles, turrets near the outer doors, and trackers in every slave's collar. But Jace had prepared. He had found an old route through the collapsed shaft, 14B, a tunnel long shut down after a cave-in. No one used it, no cameras, no sensors, but it still connected to the outer loading bay. If they could reach it, they might survive. That night, Jace stared at the ceiling of his small bunk room. His heart thudded so loud he thought the guards might hear it. He remembered. Earth, warm sunlight, green trees, his daughter's laugh, but none of that existed anymore. Here, only metal, only chains, and now, only a chance. He closed his eyes and whispered to the ceiling, "Let me get her out." At exactly 0300 station time, Jace activated the pulse bomb. Boom. The mine shook as all lights went black. For 2 seconds, silence. Then alarms howled. "System failure, power core overload, sector lockdown." Jace grabbed his tool pack, tore out of his room and sprinted through smoke. In the chaos, guards yelled. Slaves screamed. Machines sparked and twitched. Jace ran toward Sector 9, his body moving on instinct. He found her where she always was, chained near the collapsed loader, her eyes locked onto his. He knelt, pulled a magnetic cutter from his belt and sliced through the cuffs. They fell to the floor. She didn't wait. She grabbed his hand and they ran. Down the hallway, through the old supply closet, past a broken railing that led into black. Jace kicked open a sealed panel. Narlox's map had been right, a hidden shaft. They dropped in. Dust, rats, silence, but no guards. They crawled through the tunnel. Arieth, coughing, Jace bleeding from a scrape across his back. Then ahead, light, the loading bay. Only one exit door stood between them and the surface. Jace stepped forward, and the motion sensor blinked red. "Oh no," he whispered. The exit was armed. He turned to Arieth. "We'll need a new plan." But before she could speak, footsteps echoed behind them. Guards. They were not alone anymore. The footsteps grew louder, boots on steel, shouting voices, flashlights, slicing through the tunnel's dark throat. Jace grabbed Arieth's wrist. "Run." She didn't ask questions. She didn't look back. She just ran. They sprinted through the old shaft, past rusted pipes, dead lights, and support beams ready to fall. Dust filled the air. Every breath burned. Every heartbeat echoed like a war drum. Behind them, guards fired warning shots. The energy bolt slammed into walls, sending sparks everywhere. "Sector breach, slave on the run, human accomplice." Jace cursed under his breath. "We need cover." Up ahead, a storage alcove half collapsed. They dove into it just as a blast rocked the tunnel. Boom. Rocks rained down. Arieth landed hard, coughing. Jace pulled her up. "You okay?" She nodded, but blood ran from a cut on her forehead. "We're not far," Jace said. "One more tunnel, then open air." But as they moved forward, flames burst from a ruptured pipe. A fuel line had been hit. Now the tunnel behind them was burning. The heat licked at their backs like claws. "No turning back now," Arieth said softly. Jace blinked. Her voice was calm, steady. even in the fire. "You've done this before," he said. She gave a sad smile. "I was born in war. I just forgot what it felt like." They reached a lift shaft, the old kind, manual with a gear crank and chain pulley. Jace looked up. "It's 20 meters. We climb." Arieth didn't complain. She just grabbed the chain and started pulling herself up. Jace followed. Below them, fire chased like a monster. Smoke twisted up the shaft. The heat melted rust and groaned through metal. Halfway up, Arieth slipped. Jace caught her hand just in time. Her eyes widened. "Let me fall if you must." "Not a chance," he said. "You're not dying in this place." He pulled her up, slow, steady. Together, they reached the top and the lift shaft opened into the old surface bay, long abandoned. Jace smashed the emergency release on the final hatch. The metal door hissed open, and for the first time in years, Arieth saw the sky. It wasn't bright. It wasn't blue. But it was wide, and it wasn't a cage. She stepped out, barefoot on cracked earth. She closed her eyes and felt the wind on her face. Freedom. Even for 1 minute. It was real. But peace didn't last. Behind them, the guards weren't. Giving up, a siren wailed across the desert plains. "Tracking drones will come next," Jace said. "We can't outrun them," Arieth replied. "Then we don't run." He pulled a small black box from his pack. A hidden item. A final piece of his plan. "What is that?" she asked. "Signal scrambler, illegal, dangerous, and very, very useful." He slammed it into the ground. A pulse shot out. A ripple of static that wiped local trackers for 1 hour. Not enough to escape the planet, but enough to vanish for a little while. Enough to disappear. They ran through the dry canyons, far from the mining facility. The air stung their lungs. Their legs shook, but neither stopped. Not until they found a cave, half buried, forgotten by time. They crawled inside, collapsed. Silence. No more alarms. No more shouting. Just them. 2 fugitives. 2 lives that should have never crossed but did. Arieth leaned against the stone wall, her chest rising and falling. "I didn't think I'd ever feel wind again," she said. Jace smiled weakly. "It's dirty wind, but it's ours." She looked at him for a long moment. "Why did you really help me?" He thought for a second. Then he said the truth. "Because someone should have helped my daughter. And no one did." Arieth's lips parted, but she said nothing. Instead, she reached forward and gently placed her hand over his. It wasn't love. Not yet. But it was something stronger than survival. Something beginning. Outside the cave, smoke still rose from the mine. The fire would burn for days, and the story of the escape would spread. They wouldn't just be slaves anymore, they would become a whisper, a warning. A story of a human who broke the chains, and the alien woman who ran through fire, not alone. The sky over Grithin was painted in gray ash and blood-red sun. The desert stretched like a sea of bones, filled with jagged rocks, dead trees, and broken machines from wars long forgotten. The air was dry. The wind tasted like rust. In that dead land, Jace and Arieth ran. Their bodies were tired. Their feet bled. Their breath came in short gasps. But they didn't stop. They couldn't, because above them, in the poisoned sky, a small black shape moved, silently, a hunter drone. It had found their heat trail. Arieth stumbled over a rock. Jace caught her. "You okay?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She nodded. "Just tired, but I can still move." Jace scanned the horizon. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before the drone calls the shock squad. They'll bring stunners, nets, chains. Then we move faster," Arieth said. Her voice was hoarse, but her eyes were sharp, sharper than before. Not afraid, not broken, just burning. They moved through an old battlefield, giant metal husks half buried in sand. Twisted alien, tanks, crashed dropships, rusted skeletons of machines from 3 wars ago. It was dangerous ground, But Jace had a plan. "This way," he said. "Under here." They crawled inside the hollow frame of an old crawler unit. Inside, the light dimmed. The metal was cold, quiet. For a moment, they could breathe. Arieth sat down slowly. Her back slid against the wall. "If I die, I want it to be like this." Jace looked at her. "Like what?" "Next to someone who saw me as more than trash." Jace didn't speak. His throat was too tight. Instead, he opened his pack and pulled out the last protein bar. "Eat," he said, handing it to her. "You need it too." "I'll be fine." She took it, ate slowly. Her eyes never left his. But peace never lasted long on Grithin. Outside, the sound came again. Whirring blades cutting wind. Another drone, then another. 3 now. Jace stood. "They're closing in." He checked the scrambler device on his belt. Battery, blinking red. 10 minutes left, he muttered. "And we're out of time." Arieth stood beside him. "We can't outrun them." "No," Jace agreed. "But maybe we don't have to." He led her through a small gap behind the crawler. Beyond it, a slope led down to a canyon full of thick ash. Black powder from an old fuel explosion site. If they slid through it, the drones might lose their heat trail. But breathing that ash was deadly. Jace took out a small oxygen patch from his bag. Only one. He handed it to her. Arieth stared at it, then back at him. "No, you first. You're the one they're really hunting. You have to disappear. I won't let you die." "For me," Jace smiled softly. "I already decided." He pressed the patch to her neck before she could stop him. Then he grabbed her hand. "Ready?" he asked. "No." "Good." They jumped. The ash rose around them like a black wave. They slid down the slope coughing, eyes burning. The sound of drones faded behind them, confused by the sudden drop in heat signal. Arieth kept her hand on Jace's chest, feeling his heartbeat through the dust. He was still alive. Still fighting. Still with her. They reached the bottom of the canyon and collapsed. Behind an old engine block, Jace was gasping. His lips were cracked. His lungs screamed for air, but he smiled. "We made it." Arieth ripped off the patch and pressed it to his neck. "Your turn." He nodded, breathing easier. They sat in silence, only ash falling around them like snow, and, in that stillness, she spoke. "My people threw me away. But you carried me through fire, smoke, and death." Jace looked at her. "I didn't carry you," he said. "You ran beside me." Above, the drones circled in wide loops, searching. But they couldn't find anything because down in that canyon, the hunter and the hunted had become ghosts. The sun rose slowly over the canyon's edge, but it brought no warmth, only light. Jace opened his eyes. His body ached. His clothes were stiff with ash and sweat. But he was alive. And so was she. Arieth lay beside him, her back against the old engine block, her eyes half open, staring at the golden sky. Her skin, though bruised and dusty, seemed to glow under the sunlight. She looked like a warrior carved from starlight and pain. She noticed him watching and gave a small smile. "We made it through the night," she whispered. Jace nodded. The hardest night. By mid-morning they climbed out of the canyon, slowly, together. The desert stretched far, but in the distance they saw it, smoke from a hidden campfire, a refugee settlement. One of the secret ones. Not official, not safe, but free. Arieth froze at the sight. "Will they take me in?" Jace answered gently. "They don't ask where you're from, only if you're still breathing." She looked down at her hands. "Then, maybe, I still belong somewhere." When they reached the camp, guards stepped forward, rough-looking survivors from different planets. No uniforms, just scars and tired eyes. One of them raised a blaster. "You bring trouble, human?" Jace raised his hands. "Only someone who wants to live." The guard looked at Arieth. Her cuffs still hung broken on her wrists. "Ex-mine slave," the guard muttered. "We don't get many who make it out." She's Not just a slave, Jace said firmly. She's the reason I'm standing here. The guard stared at them for a long moment, then stepped aside. Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Inside the camp, people stared, some curious, others cautious, but no one stopped them. A medic offered Arieth a seat and began cleaning her wounds. Jace sat nearby, finally allowing himself to relax. The weight of everything, fear, running, fire, death, it all crashed down on him now. And then, Arieth did something that surprised even herself. She leaned into him. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her eyes closed, and she whispered, "I never asked to be saved." Jace nodded. "I know. But you did anyway. I couldn't watch. You disappear." For the first time in cycles, Arieth slept without chains, and Jace kept watch, not because he had to, but because he wanted to, because she wasn't just someone he saved. She had saved him too, from silence, from sorrow, from being numb. Weeks passed. Arieth grew stronger. She began helping others in the camp, teaching broken children how to hide, how to speak without fear, how to stand tall even when everything hurt. Jace fixed power cells, repaired heating lines, and taught young scavengers how to make light from scrap. But each night, they returned to the same fire, to the same silence, to each other. One evening, as the moons rose together, Arieth sat beside Jace and held something in her palm. It was the metal flower he had given her in the mines. She had kept it all this time. "I was sold for 1 credit," she said, "but you treated me like I was worth a galaxy." Jace said nothing. His eyes said everything. She placed the flower in his hand. "I was born a princess, betrayed by my own blood," she said. "But now I choose my own name." Jace looked at her. "And what name is that?" She smiled. "Yours." In a world that tried to break them, they had found each other. Not in glory, not in riches, but in the darkest place possible. And from that darkness, they had created light. A light that no chains could touch. They sold her like trash. He broke the rules to save her. Together, they rewrote their fate. And now, in the arms of a man who saw her soul, not just her scars, she was finally free.